me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Pastor Doug is in the house. Hey, Pastor Doug, welcome and thank you so much for doing this. So we just want to start, I think, by introducing ourselves. My name is Michael Teddy, and this here is Ashok Mohanakumar. Good luck trying to pronounce that.
Yes.
One of the things that we really love about even the Canon Press videos is that there are videos on Sabbath dinners, peeling potatoes. Now, that's amazing, right? The Bible being applied in that way. So one of the things that we've seen in our culture is that a lot of people, the quote unquote Reformed and Calvinistic people in our country, most of them become Reformed over the internet. And so they all have they know the doctrines, they are confessional, and they have a personal faith, but it's very private, if that makes sense. So what would be a counsel that you would give to such people, especially in our country, in our culture?
So this is a huge subject. Technology, online, the internet, online resources are a great blessing and a great curse simultaneously. If you have them, if you have your thinking straight on this, it's a great blessing, and if you don't, it'll suck you down a wormhole. It's just really bad. Yeah. So let's say you've got a good understanding of this, and you have a you know that the doctrines of grace, you know the theology. If it doesn't make you want to turn immediately and cultivate it in community with real people on the ground where you live, then you didn't really understand it. The world has always had bookworms. Okay, the world has always had bookworms, but it's not always had cyber bookworms or digital bookworms. But it's the same thing, really. Yeah. Right. So it's James says the man who hears the word but does not do the word. Right. It says he deceives himself. So, but you can't do the word unless there are actual neighbors, actual brothers and sisters. Now, if you understand, let's say you're in a tight-knit family and you are growing together, you're doing everything you ought to do in a real flesh and blood family, and somebody travels to the next town over, you can text each other, you can use technology to stay closer to real people, or you can use technology to drive you away from real people. Right. Okay. And so what you want to do is ask yourself, all this stuff I'm learning on the internet, how has it made me love my neighbor? Right. With neighbor being understood as the guy next door.
We've got a lot of youngsters who want to rush into seminary, who've never been part of healthy churches, right? They want to go into, so seminaries here tend to be, or seminary students we come across tend to be like that cookie cutter kind of Christianity, where they have no exposure to the church. They have never done anything with regards to real relationships, but they go on and they want to learn because they want to become like the preachers and the pastors that they hear and they listen to online, and the whole concept of celebrity pastors and things like that. We just see a lot of youngsters and a lot of people who love to accumulate that kind of a theological know-how, but not have real relationships, not actually be part of a church and wrestle those things out. Is that just a thing here, or is it a thing worldwide?
It's a thing worldwide and all through history.
Yeah.
So there are people who are truth oriented. They like the doctrines in their head. And then there are people who are relationship oriented. That, they're warm and accepting and they love a lot of people, but they don't have any substance in their worldview at all. Yeah. Right. So they're just very relational, very emotional, very sentimental. And they've got a lot of relationships, but they're not very weighty relationships. Right. And then someone else has a lot of weight in his head, in his theology, but no relationships with actual people. And so what you want to strive for is a combination of these things. Another illustration that I like to use is an illustration out of Ephesians, where Paul says, speaking the truth in love. So speaking the truth is like a skeleton. It's hard, rigid, unyielding, dry. If you had a science classroom with a human skeleton hanging from a rack in that science classroom, every bone is in its right place. It's anatomically correct, just like the Westminster Confession. Everything is right where it ought to be, except that it's a skeleton. It's dead. Right. Okay. So truth-oriented Christians are like that. It's just bones.
Right.
But then you have what I call goo churches, where everybody is just relational and experiential. And it's like, what would we look like if you took all our bones out?
Yeah.
Right. All right. We would all look like beanbag chairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. We'd be big amorphous globules.
Yeah.
And there are, in our day, far more churches like that, where there's no structural solidity. Right. It's just goo. It's just goo. So the idea is, I think if you have a Pauline approach to this, you have bones that are encased in flesh. So if hard, it's rigid and unyielding, but it's alive.
Right.
So I can, a hand is capable of a caress or a punch, or, it's got versatility because it's hard and it's soft. That's what a living Christian ought to be like. There ought to be doctrinal substance. The entire skeleton should be there. Right. But you also want the entire skeleton encased in love.